Well, hello there, everyone, and how are you guys on this night? Well, I just want to quickly pop in because we are halfway through the year and we're getting ready to start summer. Yes. Honestly, I just wanted to quickly pop in and talk about how very busy this year is. Let's talk about all the things that has happened in 2024 that's very significant in astrology. First off, 2024 represents the number 8, and 8 has to deal with rebirths, transformations, transmuting energy, like converting energy from one form to another form. And honestly, it also symbolizes the infinity sign, which shows you the cycles of life. So that's very funny. And let's talk about how busy 2024 is. First off, it is a leap year, which happens every 4 years. It's election year, which also just happens to happen every 4 years. Oh, and also it's the Summer Olympics, so that means it's Olympics year, which happens every 2 to 4 years. What's with all these fours? Very interesting. It happened to follow because 2 4s make it 8. But we're going to leave that one alone for now. What else is very important? For here in America at least, the April 8th was the last total solar eclipse that's going to be seen in America for the next 20 to 25 years. And why is that important? Because just this year, Pluto went into Aquarius, and Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for about the next 25 to 30 years. Last solar eclipse just happens to happen when Pluto goes into Aquarius, and the next time we're going to see another total solar eclipse in the Americas is when Pluto's just getting ready to leave Aquarius. And what is also very important about that, 2024 marked the year, at least here on our channel, we believe, is the age of Aquarius, which is going to last for the next 2,000 years. So that's even better. That's even better. But no, it gets better than that. Remember, here we go again. 4 years ago, Pluto happened to enter into Aquarius, but then retrograde out, which means it went in and then moved back out into Capricorn, where Pluto is going to be retrograding back into shortly this year, because Pluto is in Aquarius. But in order for America to have its Pluto return, Pluto needs to go back into Capricorn, and that's only going to happen through its retrograde. And then once it's out of its retrograde, it's going to go back into Aquarius and then not touch Capricorn ever again. So 2024 and 2020 are linked somehow through Pluto. Now, what is also interesting is 2024 is the peak for the 25 solar cycle. Let me write that down real quick for a second. So the sun goes through an 11-year cycle, and at that it has a maximum and a minimum period. A maximum period is when the sun is throwing off a lot of solar flares. There's going to be aurora lights that can hopefully be strong and more impactful to be able to be seen farther than it usually is. I'm sure you guys have been hearing reports about that, as well as when there is the solar maximum, because there's so much energy coming from the sun, it also affects Earth's magnetic field. And when Earth's magnetic field is disrupted, not completely, but that's what you see when you see the aurora lights. That's our magnetic field being activated by energy from the sun. And that energy from the northern lights, or just from the sun in general, it's going to pierce through Earth's atmosphere because it's just really powerful. And because of that, it's going to be reaching Earth's atmosphere, the ground, us people. So therefore, we're going to be affected by whatever this solar energy is going subconsciously and spiritually. We're going to be affected by this solar energy that's coming into us. So therefore, we could be more energetic, more highly active, more intuitive. A really great time and period to look towards spiritual gifts. And also, because of that, what's funny is the solar maximum was set to start at 2025, which would be very fitting for solar cycle 25 to peak in 2025. However, there are reports saying that we are in our solar maximum in 2024, but we really won't know until after 2025 if we're really in our solar maximum, or if this is just really the start and 2025 is going to be even more powerful than what we're having now. So because of that, that's something that people are keeping an eye on, as well as me too. But because of that, there is things peaking early to continue on about what's going on in 2024 energetically and astrologically. Tell me a lot is not going on right now. They're saying that when summer starts, the summer solstice, that's when the sun moves into Cancer. They're saying that time is going to be at 4:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that apparently is the earliest summer has started, even though it's still on the 20th. Really, the 21st is usually when the solstice is supposed to happen, but some days it can happen earlier on the 20th. And what time it happens determines when summer truly starts. So because of that, they're saying at 4:50 p.m., January 20th, is going to be the earliest we've had summer, or the summer solstice, since the Americas was discovered after Independence Day. I know that's like really slow. The last time, okay, let me back this up. 1776 is when independence and America signed and became an independent country. 20 years later, in 1796, the summer solstice peaked early on June 20th at 1:20 p.m. Now, I know that's literally not a big deal, but that is important because that means the Earth's rotation could be a little bit faster. And why could that be? Of course, through planetary interactions, because the Earth's orbit around the sun is not truly circular, but it goes through its periods where it's a little bit elongated and then goes back to being circular. So because of that, we're currently in our elongated period, and because of that, summer is peaking just a tad bit early. But that's just due to how the planets are rotating and how the sun is also being affected by the planets, because the sun also has its own little orbit. It doesn't stay in one spot and turn around. It's also being tugged and pulled. It's a tug and pull game in the solar system. The sun pulls on the planets and the planet pulls on the sun. So because of that, it's not it's obviously something that you can track, but it's not something that's constant and stable. Things are always changing and dynamic. Nothing's truly stable, but it's stable enough to be able to predict it. So because of that, June 20th apparently is early summer, during the early peak of the solar cycle, especially when we have a lot of these things going on, like election year, Olympics year, a leap year, solar maximum, last solar eclipse for the next 20 years. Pluto enters Aquarius. Pluto has its Capricorn return, or Pluto return, in the North American charts. So therefore, that's another thing. And because Pluto is the slowest moving planet, it's going to be the last planet to make its last return, to make its return. Like the sun makes its return every year. Jupiter makes its return every 14 years. Saturn makes its return every 28 years. And then Pluto makes its return every 248 years. So if you want to know how old the North America has been around, 248 years. Because that's how long it took for Pluto to make its return since we became an independent country. And because of that, that means that was the last. This is also a very significant thing about Pluto, because Pluto has to deal with transformations. And what year did I just say we were in? 2024, which adds up to the number 8, which is all about transformations. And in astrology, that's the 8th house of Scorpio. And Pluto just also happens to rule Scorpio. So the 8 energy is really honing in on Pluto at this moment and the transformation that North America is about to face. Because that means for the last planet to make its last return, that means every planet in the solar system has made multiple rounds around the zodiac sign, and Pluto's the last one. And when it makes its return, it's basically being rebirthed again. It's learned all of its lessons, so it's the end of a cycle, starting a new cycle, and then we're going to go through the zodiac wheel all over again. So Pluto to be the last planet to do this means that everything has been exhausted. And if everything has been exhausted, where do you go from here? Change things up. You got to move forward. Now that we've learned everything that we could in these last 248 years, it's time to figure out what are we going to do next as we move forward for another 248 years. And then America, God, we are really old, aren't we? But we're the babies at the same time. So because of that, I just think it's really important to look at all these qualities that are happening, because and also, just like a side note, with the solar activity that's happening at the maximum, and I said that affects us spiritually and also just affects the earth as well. It's also important to realize that the earth has its own energy, and we are on the earth, so therefore we are tuned in to this energy. But if the sun is affecting the energy of the earth, and because Pluto is making its last return in the chart, that means that an evolution or a new frequency or level has to be, like they say, it's now time to level up. All the planets have done what they needed to do. Pluto is just like, and once you level up, you can't level down. So that's basically what Pluto is. Slow change that happens over time. And when it's happened, no going back. There's no going back from here. And we see the change happening. We are seeing what AI can do. And Pluto in Aquarius has to do with technology. Now, you could say history repeats itself, because honestly, there's nothing new under the sun. So we have to start repeating at some point. And it's even down to generations as well. Generations start repeating themselves. I think there's like 4 or 7 generations in one cycle, and then they just start repeating each other. I'll put the name down right here. I did a brief research on it, but I cannot remember the name because I was very interested, because in astrology, after Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto represent the generational planets, because they move so slow and take so much time to move through one sign, 14 to 200 and something years. Well, forget Pluto. Uranus and Neptune, Pluto too, but Uranus and Neptune are considered the generational planets because they can take anywhere between 14 to 20 years to go through to go through a planet, or not through a planet, through a zodiac sign. So because of that, they're slow moving. The only reason why I excluded Pluto is because the generation is not going to be 248 years. Technically it is, if you think about it, because we're going to be going through a new generation here in America, because Pluto has now moved. But that's something different, because that also marks funnily enough, a new age as well. But Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are your generational planets, and because of that, every 14 to 20 years, it's a new generation. That's because Neptune or Uranus has moved into a new zodiac sign, allegedly. Now, it doesn't all lined up perfectly. They literally have this. It's like the ABCs of generations or something like that. They literally have this timed down. There are some different ways to mark generations, and that's why I could either be a Gen X, XY, a Gen Y or a Gen Z. I don't. And then the question is, when does Generation Alpha start? But that's not. I'm not here to talk about generations. I'm here to talk about the planets and how 2024 is very impactful and has a lot going on. So because of that, I'm just wanting you guys to know this about what's going on. Oh, and hopefully we get to see a star burst in the sky. They said anywhere between February and September. That is a long window gap. And they said that you should not miss it because it's only going to be bright for like 2 to 3 nights. So thank you for giving us a huge window gap and said, yeah, don't miss it. It's going to be only for a few nights. Well, how am I supposed to know? Really? It's called T Borealis. I'll put the name down right here. It's supposed to be, it's periodic, and it happens every 80 years. There goes the number 8 again. And because of this, it's basically two stars. One is a white dwarf, and one's like not a white dwarf, an orange star, just like our sun, maybe bigger or smaller. But that's being torn apart and being given to this white dwarf, and that just bursts off energy periodically every 80 years. And we see that burst in the sky, and it's going to be so bright that you'll be able to even see it during the day, they said. So literally, do not miss this. I don't want to miss it either. But they said they don't know when it's supposed to peak. So that's the annoying part about it. So hopefully they're definitely going to tell us when it does peak. So keep your eyes out for that too. And look at that. Something spectacular is supposed to be happening in our sky in the 8th year, because 2024 and all this information. So much going on this year. I wish I could tell you more and go into more details. But if you are interested about astrology and how to find your soulmate, we are going live Friday, June 28th at 7 p.m. Please call in live. We're going to talk about how to find your soulmate in astrology. Baby Crone is trying to bring in more astrology and more space news because I do find that interesting. And I am tracking the sun. Trust I am. I am watching that sun like a hawk. Sadly, I missed when we could see sunspots with just solar eclipse glasses. And there hasn't been an opportunity to see that again yet. But it just seems like the sun is being, I don't want to say weird, but it's very energetic. And I just feel like that is something I have to talk about because there's just so much going on this year. It doesn't seem like a coincidence at this point. It seems like everything is strategically happening and is going to be preparing us in North America. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to mention that there is going to be a full moon 2 days shortly after the summer solstice, which is June 20th, and on June 22nd is supposed to be the strawberry moon, which is supposed to be the first full moon of the summer. But what is really interesting, just to do a quick numerology to go back to this number 8, right? April 8th was, forget that there was a 4 there, but the number 8 was there. So that's, yeah, so April 8th, that number 8 is important. And then June 20th, 6th month. So, and the 20th day, which is a 2, so 6 plus 2, that's 8. Then June 22nd, even though that's a 6, and that's a 4, and that's a 10, that's still a new beginning because that's a 1, and that's supposed to go along with the number 8, which is all about symbolizing new beginnings and starting something new. So I just wanted to put that quickly in there because I forgot to also mention that there's supposed to be a full moon shortly after the summer solstice. Ooh, and if the summer solstice didn't peak early, we would have the full moon just the day after the summer solstice. So basically, we can say that this full moon is happening on the summer solstice, which is very important. So with that being said, I now hope you guys enjoy this video, and I think I got everything in astrology wise. Sunflowers.